Hi everyone, how are you today? Well, we're on a bit early so I can have a little chat as well. So if you're watching and you'd like me to say hello, please type in hello or hi or something. And how are you all on this gloriously sunny day? Liquid sunshine. Hi Peter, hi Beverly. How are you on this lovely fine day today? Right, hi Dawn. So we are a bit early, but I thought I'd show you this card. Thought I'd come on and show you just a little bit of the card. So it's got a little bit of sheen to it as well. If I put it to the light, you should be able to see that. See the little sheen on that as well. Oh, Beverly's busy nesting. I know it's pouring down in the northeast. It's absolutely pouring down here as well, Sylvia. It's liquid sunshine. So this is the card I'm aiming to do today, but I'm actually going to do it in some different colours. So where I had the blues and greens and teals, I'm actually going to go pink and greens today, so that's the sort of colourway I'm sort of going. Just so it'll be the same techniques, just slightly different colours. I'm just keeping an eye on the time. So was everybody? You all keeping well? Keeping safe? Morning, Donna. Oh, afternoon, Donna. How are you? Donna's my sister, if anybody didn't know. So that's the card, and we have got a deal using, I've used these three from the Julie Hickey, and there is a deal on those three with those three on our website, so you can have a look at there. But the ones I'm using today, so there's a tag in the set, there's a birthday one there, and then there's one with all letters and wording. But I'm not using all three today. I'm actually using those three, so the flower stamp and the flower die, the mandala stamp, and then I'm adding another stamp and die in, which isn't in the kit, in the set, but it's a lovely happy birthday one that comes with a die as well to cut it. So that's how I'm going to do my sentiment. Oh, good. Well, at least you're doing something. Ooh. Peter's doing quilling, sewing Christmas masks. Ooh, lovely. Diane, that's lovely. Keeping the country safe with your masks. So I think it's probably close to time. Let's have a look if we're ready. Yep, so what we'll do, we'll get going then. Okay, so there we go. So what we're going to do, I'm going to first start with the card part itself, and I'm going to actually make a card base like that. So it's actually got a join there and there's a little seam. So I'm going to do that out of 2 A4s just to show that you don't need an A3 piece just to make the card. And this is an 8x8 card as well. So the first thing I need to do the card that I was doing is I need to, so below these flowers there's a little sort of star frame, and you'll see that better on today's one as well. Okay. So the first thing I need to do is take some nested squares, and I've put a ruler next to me so I can say what size I've used. So it's about 12.5 centimeters, the bigger one, by 10.5, and the other smaller one is 10.5. So it's about, morning Deborah, or afternoon Deborah. So yeah, so it's 10.5 and 12.5 for the big one. So these are just plain nested squares, and I've stuck them together to form a frame, and I've actually cut one already, but I'm going to cut another one as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my, and I'm cutting this in a 200 gram super smooth. You can use any sort of card depending on what you want. As you can see, I cut my first one out of this A4 piece, where I made sure I didn't damage that bottom bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut across there, so that can't be wasted, and I can use these on sentiments or flowers or stuff later. And I'm going to cut this piece. So that's nested squares, largest one about 12.5 centimeters, and the smallest one is 10.5 centimeters. And I'm just going to push that through my cutting machine. As you can see, I've cut him out. There's a frame. Okay, and sometimes if you don't, I put mine in so it had a sort of, basically mine went in too straight on the plate, so it didn't quite cut one little area. If you put them in at an angle, then it'll cut properly as it goes through. But I've got my other frame there. So this can come for something else. Put it in my drawer. So what we're going to do with this is actually stick this piece over the top of this piece. Okay. So all I'm going to use is my high-tack, very sticky glue. I'm making sure it's where I want it. In there. And then all I'm going to do, I'm just going to lift up one corner, like that, just hold it. Pop a bit of glue where that's going to touch. So just a tiny little spot of glue. I'm going to pop that back down. If any glue oozes on these inner bits, it doesn't really matter. Okay, I'm going to move it around. So we've got one stuck. Tiny bit of glue. And hold that down. Now I'm going to continue all the way around until it's all stuck. I will bring the card in now just so people can see the card. Again. Okay, so now I've got this sort of star shape. So yeah, so for those who are watching, if you could share it with any groups or friends that you think might be interested. And once all that is glued, I'm going to sneeze now, sorry. Oh dear. I'm going to put my scissors, so basically what I want to remove is this piece, this piece, this piece, and I'll just mark them with a pencil so you can see what I mean. I want to remove that little bit there, that little bit there, that little bit there. So all the inner little pieces. So all those little pieces there. So I need to remove all of those pieces. So to do that, I need to remove them from the inner part of the frame. So I'm just putting my scissors in, buttoning up to the side, and then cutting that. And then putting it into there, cutting that off. I'm just going to keep going around there until it's all cut. So when you come to an area where you can't see the edge of the card, just come from the bottom, and you can follow the edge of the frame that's there. And you can do that all the way around if you wanted to. And then flick over when it's on the front. Turn it around, cut that bit off. So you'll find that the four corners will be from the front that way, and then if I turn it upside down, I'll be able to get to the other pieces to cut them perfectly as well. Okay, so you can see it's now starting to get its shape. So I've got two more pieces to cut. And this is the thing, never be afraid to overlap your dies, cut the centre bits out, change the shape of it, give you a new inner topper or a new frame to work with. Okay, so now we have this nice little flowery star. Okay, so this then I want to stamp some wording onto. So because it'll go over the edge of the card, I'm actually going to place it on my mat, and I'm going to take the friendship flower stamp, and I'm going to take the little wording that's here. Right, so that's the card we're doing. So nice to have another afternoon off. And I'm just going to use one of Phil Martin's Sentimentally Yours stamps. I'm going to make sure it's the right way up. Can read For My Special Friend is the top line. So I'm going to hold that the right way. And I'm going to be using some colours today. Some opaque pigment. I'm going to be using Grasshopper, Pink Tulip and Chinese Red. Okay, so I'm going to go with the Pink Tulip first, being the lighter colour. Now you can either turn your stamp over and stamp it up that way, or you can tap it gently onto your ink pad that way. To a very special friend. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to concentrate on certain areas. So a little straight line there. So I'm going to stamp on there. And it is quite pale, this one. So you probably won't see much on that one. Stamp on that bit. Stamp on that bit. Just go around and pick different areas. So I'm going to stamp the same way up. I'm going to do that bit there. So it's very, very pale, that one. So I'm taking the stamp cleaner. This is a very good stamp cleaner. It's archival ink cleaner. It's all purpose cleaner for all sorts of stamps. So just dab it or rub it on. And then take a nice soft cloth and wipe it off. And that's ready to use on my next colour. So I'm now going to use a little bit of grasshopper. I'm only going to use a little bit of this colour. So I'm going to put up on the top point there. Going to do it there. That bottom bit there. And across that bit there. So just so I've got a few little areas where that colour is. Hi Judith. It is definitely the best cleaner for stamps. And then I'm going to go with the Chinese red. Just gently tap, and I'm going to infill the areas I haven't put any colour. A little bit there. And there. And there's a little bit just there as well. So there we are. And as you can see, that's got all sorts of little colours on there. So there's a bit of green, a little bit of red, and a little bit of pink just in between. So it's quite pale. And the colour I've got left on this, I'm just going to stamp around like that on my cleaning mat. So this could be a glass mat. And just cleaning my stamp as I go. So that's that little stamp used. And the other thing with this now, I'm not actually going to waste any of this ink today. And in fact, what I'm going to do is just squish in some more green. So I can do some more of my background. Making sure I'm not touching the red areas. And I've already started to do one of these backgrounds. So I have a little pot with some mica powder in. Hiya Mike. So I'm just going to spritz that with, and it's just water with a little bit of clear mica powder. And I've already started a piece, but I'm now going to pick that up. So as long as you use a card that stays porous, you can actually pick up little colours. And because of the mica, when it dries you end up with a lovely little background. The cleaner, Peter, is Archival Ink cleaner. It's from Ranger. We usually have it in stock, but it's out of stock at the moment. But I know Gavin's doing another order soon. So what I'm doing now is just drying this little background. So this is our 300 gram pick and mix white card. Get rid of that lead. I don't know if you can see all the shimmer on there. Just waiting for it to show up on my screen so I know you can see what I'm seeing. Lovely. So there we are. Nice bit of shimmer. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside to dry. I'm going to just wipe my mat of the rest. So don't be afraid to use your inks to start backgrounds. Obviously it'd have to be on paper, something that won't break down when it's wet. And then I've got my frame ready, I've got my centerpiece ready to cut, to put into the center, and I can pick out whichever area I want. Okay, Thank you very much. Hi Jill. So that is my frame. So I'm going to pop the frame now onto this piece and decide what area I want to keep. So I think I'm going to use that sort of area. So I'm then going to I'll take a pen this time so that you can see it more. So this is just basically an archival fine line pen. That's all I'm doing, is just drawing around the inside of this star. Okay, so that should actually be on there now. Marvellous. And all I'm going to do is cut on the line. First of all. So I'm literally just cutting that out by hand. Remove that out of the way. I'll just bring the card in so you can see that as I'm cutting. Okay, so that is on that, and that would actually fit into my star there. Okay, but I actually want a little border around it. So the way I would suggest to do it is, if you've got a ruler, a nice ruler that's got some lines on it, some sort of guideline or something like that, then you use that and you draw little pencil lines on there. But to be honest, I just like to cut it by eye, and I'm just taking off about 1/2 centimetre on the inside. So what I do is cut all both sides first, because what I want is a nice little border around. So as you can see, all those corners have been cut that way. Okay, so you can see that's all like that. And then all I'm going to do, I'm going to turn that around and cut from the back end and line them up so that those cut off. So you could mark the back with pencil lines and then cut on the pencil lines if you're wary of cutting straight, and then you won't actually see your lines in. Last little bit comes off, and then that, so all these little pieces are waste now, and that then will actually fit in there with a nice little border. So you can make up your own shapes and stuff. Okay, so that is that bit. And then the next part is to sort out a matting layer for all of this. And what I'm going to be using for that is a piece of red card. So I've used black on this one. I'm actually going to use red on this one. Okay. So all I do, I'm going to take my little star, and as you can see then when I pop this onto there, it'll have a nice little border all the way around. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn my little frame around, and I'm using my High Tack Original. And I'm just putting a little bit of this glue in the very centre all the way around, and that's all I need is a tiny little bit of it. It's very, very good glue. It dries very, very quickly. I would say it dries almost on contact, to be honest with you. All I'm going to do, I'm going to push that down, just rub over, make sure it stays, and that's stuck. So depending on how much of a matting layer you want around these as well. Yeah, it is very Christmassy, even though it's going to be, it could be a Christmas card, but I'm doing a birthday one. But yes, it could be. Could be a very Christmassy card, and then that'll fit in the middle there later with foam pads. But to finish this off now, I'm actually going to put a dot, take a ruler, and I'm going to put a dot 1/2 centimetre there or thereabouts all the way around. So each from that point, you take a ruler across that point there, mark 1/2 centimetre, then you know it's going to be square as well. From that point to that point, mark 1/2 centimetre outside of that. So you can do your inner parts and your outer parts. And by putting the little dots there, you know that it's actually going to end up being exactly the right size, and your points will be square to the card. And this is the most difficult part of the card, to be honest with you. So it's it's quite easy to do the rest of it. And for those that have got brother scanner kits or silhouettes, you could actually cut these frames out to the size. You could cut the matting layers out to the size you want, because you just extend your shape. I'm just going to go to that one. And then the last one, I think. Yep. So I'm just lining opposite to opposite and then marking 1/2 centimetre outside. So on there now I've got a dot there, dot there, dot there, dot there, dot there, all the way around, which means now I can cut across that dot there, so I know where that is. Get that off there. So once you've started, there's my dot, there's my other dot. So again, if you go around, remember like I said with the other one, if you go around on the right hand side first and go from dot to dot, then you're going to be, that's okay. Dot to dot. A nice dot to dot without the picture at the end. Okay, and then we come to the left hand side and you can still see where your dot is, and that'll drop off. You can still see where your dot is, so that'll fall off. And again, you can put this down and cut with a craft knife and a ruler if you don't like using scissors. Some people can't cut straight with the scissors. It's just practice for getting your sizes right. So put that to the side. So there is my actual frame. I'm going to use a piece of this later, and then this will fit into the center of that there, which is what I'll do now. Yeah, lots of people like to do it by eye. So if you prefer to do it by eye, then that's fine. So I've just taken some big foam pads, cut them in half. I'm just going to go foam pad down every point in the same direction. And I'm just going to put two little pieces in the middle so it doesn't sag. And these foam pads got a little finger grabber to take off the backing. So really quick. And I'm going to place that into the center. So there is still a little bit of right in there, so I'm going to make sure that's the right way up. Place that in and cut that. There we are. So here's the start of my card. Well, as long as the rules go back to normal, Jill, our first class will be on the 9th when we go back. So until they actually tell us, we'll have to have a look at that. But as far as we're aware, it's still going on the 9th, and then classes that was on for the beginning of the month will go over to a later date in the month. So there is my first part of this card, and that part is actually the bit that's underneath these flowers, but you will see more of it today because I've left more of a colour. Okay, so then I need to make my card base. So I'm going to show you how to do it using two A4s, but if you have an A3 piece of card, then you can do it with that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is take two A4 pieces, pop one in and cut it to 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters, and then the next one is going to go in and we're going to cut that at 26 centimeters. So all these pieces that come off can be reused for sentiments at a later date, but I'm not cutting the second piece to 20 the second way. So the first piece we had 20 by 20, and the second piece we cut it to 20, and then it'll still stay at 21. So that's what we need. And then we're going to take a score tool, and you can either score it at 1 centimeter this side, or you can score it at 20 centimeters that side. And what that does, it gives us a little flap to fold back, and we're actually going to stick that onto there. So you can either stick it to the front of the card or to the back of the card, but I usually like to stick it inside. Okay, and the way to do that is you can either use your red liner tape, you can use your all-purpose Collal. I'm going to use my original high tack. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue all along that little tab. I'll rub my finger quickly across it and rub off that excess, and then I'm going to line up these two sides by knocking them together, hold them down fast, and then just push that side down onto there. And that is now my card base. Okay, so that's there, and I don't mind it being on the back end, because when I put my verse inside there, it'll hide that seam anyway, so I will just stick it along there. It's a piece of paper with a verse on. Okay, so that is now my card base. Yes, we're lucky we're on a hill. So that is my card base. I now need to take another piece of the red and cut that to 19.5 centimeters by 19.5 centimeters. And that is to fit onto the main front of the card. And then I'm going to take a piece of £200 and cut that to 19 by 19. So I usually go down in half a centimetre increments. And then what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to stick the red. So you can use your high tack glues, or I could have used my all-purpose Collal. This. So I'm going to stick that to the front of the card with a nice little matting layer. So I'm going to show you some little hints and tips on how to get your die cuts to cut perfectly in place when you're only using a partial amount of it as well. I'm going to take my mat back in here, and I'm going to take the mandala stamp. got some nice little sentiments on here as well, which you could actually use in the centre if you didn't want to get the happy birthday die one. Just going to pop that onto an acrylic block, and what I want to do is just stamp into each corner so that I've got a bit of pattern behind. Yeah, it's, if you haven't got an 8x8 card, then it's a good way of getting your cards together, because you can make it to the size you want. You can do it with 7x7, 8x8, 6x6s, you know. So stamping that, so I think what we're going to use is we'll use a little bit of the pink. I'm just going to use the light pink, so I don't want much colour on there anyway. I'm going to use the light pink like that, and then just with the tip of the green I'm just going to tap a little bit of green into little areas, and I'm going to stamp that just over the corner and lift that up. So you get a little hint of the pink and you get that green there as well. And then the pink again. Tap a little bit green. So I just want a nice subtle sort of background. Yeah, you can use whatever colour you want then by doing it that way, because you're actually adding the colour. And if you distress the edges of your card, you can even use your inks to do that. So you could just have all white card to make this card. So it was a bonus, and that's all I'm going to do with the ink that's left on. I'm just going to come around into those little areas there, just to put a little bit of colour into there. You won't see much of it, so I'll use that side. There we are. And if it's not enough there, you can just go in, tap a little bit of green. So that is now my little background. So you might not be able to pick up the pink, but there's definitely pink there. The green is showing more, to be honest with you. And again, I could have absorbed that ink from my card as well. Remember to clean your stamps. I'm keeping it pretty clean around you today, Sue. Said mine would probably end up looking like your desk when you was crafting yesterday, but I'm trying to keep it clean as I go along, so I don't have to use extra space. So what I'm going to do with that now is, there's my card, so I'm actually going to pop that onto there. And I'm going to use my all-purpose collal because it's a thinner paper. I'm going to use my all-purpose collal because there's less chance of any lines on the glue showing. So I tend to put a line around the edge and then just a wiggle down the middle. It is very subtle, the colours are lovely, but when you think I've gone from that to that, this card's going to look completely different. So this bit you can put on foam pads again, but I'm just going to put that flat. Making sure my writing is the right way up on my centerpiece. Stick that down in there. Okay, so that's now my card base coming along lovely, and you can still see the sheen is in our centerpiece. It's only because I got a tiny desk, Sue, that it's... Oh good, I'm glad you can make out the pink as well. I got a tiny desk to work on, although I've got a big table behind as well. But yeah, so there we are. So that's the difference on that one. And then I'm going to show you how I cut these flowers and the leaves. Okay, so there's a stamp set and a die set for these. You can hand cut out these flowers, they're very easy, so if you didn't want the die you can do that, but it does make it easier. Let's pop that back on there. But I've already done some of the flowers and I've stamped them in black, but I may add a little bit of colour into these as well, and I'll show you that in a minute as well. So I get a large one and a small one every time I stamp and die cut. Okay, and then I'm also going to show you how I did my leaves as well, which has come from the same stamp. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is to stamp first. So what I'm going to do is take some of my 200 gram that I cut off when I did my frames. I'm going to pop the flower stamp onto the block. I'm just making sure the flowers are towards the one end there, so it's easier just to stamp them without anything else. I'm going to take my VersaFine. I could use any ink that I want for this, especially if you're not colouring them. Just inking up the flowers itself, and then what I'm going to do, because these stems are actually coloured, I'm just going to take a cloth, take my nail and just get in a little bit close like that, and take a little bit more off. Okay, and then I'm going to stamp them. So that's just the flowers on their own, so I could make an array of all different flowers on there. Okay, and then you can see all the ink didn't come off there because I didn't use the cleaner. Leave the cleaner on it for a few seconds so it can embed, and then clean it off. Okay, so I'm actually going to separate that from there because I only need 8 flowers altogether, so I've got 6, so this is the other 2 I'm going to do. So in Blue Peter style, I actually cut a piece of black, so I took a little piece of black and I put my flower dies just off the edge of it, and I cut them out, and this now will give me so this will actually give me a nice guideline now to be able to put my die in exactly the right place for this stamp. So if I pop that on there, and I'm going to tape that there so you can see it as well. so I can hold it up to the camera a bit more. Okay, so what you do, just hold you bring this up to your stamp, and there's the guideline around the edge there. So it's the same gap around there and around there. And then what I'm going to do, I've got a little bit of tape between my flowers on the die. If I just pop that piece of die there and that die there and just wiggle, it'll lock into place. So it's actually locked into the black piece of card. Gives you a little edge to lock it in. And I'm just going to push that bit of tape down in the centre there. And then when I remove the black piece, I know my die is in the correct place to stamp, to push out my stamp. Okay, so when I cut that now, so that was a cut. The outer side of it will just fall away. And when I take a pokey tool and push my flowers out, there's one, and I'll hold these up for you to see. There's two. So as you can see, the border around the flowers is lovely. Okay, so you got a nice little white border around them. Okay, and then all I'm going to do where these little stems are, which I don't want, I'm just going to cut that down into where it joins. So for those who haven't got a nice poinsettia die, these would make lovely poinsettias as well, and they're actually open so you can see through the actual colour, but they're very easy to cut the outside of as well. Okay, but to make these able, thank you very much, there is a good tip and I can't take credit for it. It's a lot of people use that. I've seen it on YouTube and I've seen Julie Hickey using that sort of idea as well. That's all I'm doing. I'm cutting down in between the petals so it gives me a bit more chance to be able to shape them a bit more, because then the petals will lift more towards the centre. Okay. So I'm just going in between the petals, just cutting down a little bit more towards the centre. There's plenty of card there to do it. Just makes them more versatile and means you can shape them a lot better. Okay, so that's that. But if you wanted to add colour to these as well, the way I would do that now, so say I wanted to add a little bit of, maybe add some red into these, I could take my red ink, and I could do this on a glass mat as well, or blending mat. I'm going to take my red distressing brush, little ice cream containers, can pick up some red. That's all I have to do, is just keep turning it. And now I've got a nice little red tinted flower. I think I will colour the flowers in this one, just to be a bit different. I'm not worried about colouring the centre part. So you can see now they've gone from black stamped which has still got the detail in there, but I'm actually just colouring them. They probably would look more like poinsettias now because they're red. Not worrying about colouring the centres because I'm going to be putting a gem in there. I'm going to have some lovely red fingers because pigment ink stays wetter for longer. Some lovely red fingers now. There we go. So there's my flowers. That one needs a bit more colour. So now my flowers are red. In fact, that stamp cleaner also gets it off your fingers. It's very, very good. Sorry, Diane. Yes, it's a die cutting machine. They work like a mangle. So there's two rollers that actually put pressure when you put. So you put a die on there. I put a die on there. It puts pressure front, top, and bottom, and puts pressure on. And then there's a little cutting edge in there that actually cuts them all out. And there's all sorts of different machines that do that as well. So there's my flowers. The other thing I need also is I need a couple of more leaves, 2, 4, 6, and I need 8 of them. So I'm just going to take a little bit more super smooth, 200 gram. I'm going to take the same flower stamp, okay Judith, hope you enjoy the rest of it. There's not much left to watch. So all I'm doing is just inking up the leaf that I want and stamping that. So never be afraid to use a partial stamp as well. Just ink up what you want. So I inked up the flowers earlier with the red or the black. Now I'm inking up just the leaf with green, which you can see there. So that's that done. And then with the leaf, there's a little stem here which I just cut just a little bit around, turn at the top and leaving a nice little white border around there. And instead of keeping that long stem, I'm actually just coming in and cutting it down like that. They're pretty quick to do. There we are, so my other 2 layers. I could add a little bit of colour into this if I wanted to, just to ink up the sides if I wanted to, but I'm just going to leave them nice and clear like that. And that's that. So that's my 8 leaves. Got my flowers. I've got my flowers there, my leaves there, and now, so that is my leaves and my flowers. That is my card base, but the one thing I also need to do is to do my happy birthday sentiment. So the happy birthday sentiment is a stamp and a die. And there's two ways you can do this. You can either die cut first and then place your stamp over the top, it won't be long now, Peter. We actually almost finished. I'm actually going to bring the die cutting machine in so that I can show the young lady how they work. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to cut a piece of white. I want to cut a bit, I want to cut one of these out of my backing sheet that I did earlier with the inks. So I'm going to cut that first. And then I'm going to cut a piece and cut it out of the black as well. Okay, so let's do that. So basically we put these on the Grand Caliber, you've got a white plate and a grey plate, and there's other plates as well, but for die cutting we're just going to use the white plate. So you put your die cut inside down so the smooth side of the die is face up. I'm going to pop that onto my whiteboard and then put my grey board on the top. And then when I put it through this machine here, the opening, there's two rollers inside. And I'm going through, and then when I open that up and I lift that die up, it actually has cut all the bits I need. And any little bit that's inside, so any of the little gaps that shouldn't be there, they will just pop out as well. And it just shows how good these dies are, because this is a 300 gram piece of card and it's cut it lovely. So that's that one. So leave that there, you can see, and then I'm going to take the black one as well, the black piece. I'm going to cut a piece out of that as well. Now my desk is getting messy, so squeaky squeaky, old machine. And then that is the black one as well. So you can see that there, and I'm going to pop these plates back away. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to shape this so that it's more flat to the table. And I'm going to take the stamp I think Gavin dropped a die the last time he did a live as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my stamp and let's see, will it fit on a Phil Martin rolly one? No. Right. So it fits on my little block. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stamp it in, I'll stamp it in the red, but I also want to add some embossing powder to it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I've got my black one there, I'm going to take my red one here, I've got my sheet of scrap paper, I've got white clear embossing powder, which I'm going to get open ready. And I'm probably going to get an anti-static pad. So I don't get a little bit showing, even though it's clear. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tap my red ink over the top of the stamp. Just tapping very gently, no need to push hard down onto it. Just tapping gently until it coats all the stamp in a good colour. Just gently tapping, moving it around. And you can see that's inked up lovely. And I'm going to hover over the top so you may get a little hair. Oh, can't see that a minute. Pop it on it so I can see the outline better. Yep, so I think that is it. So you just put it over the top, guide it up and push it down. And then when you lift it off like that, you've got happy birthday, and I'm going to coat that with a clear embossing powder. Tap off the excess, so it looks quite pale at the moment. Pop the powder back into the pot. Gavin's vintage piece of paper. Are we talking the one machine to cut vinyl? Are we talking the other? All I'm going to do with that is take my heat gun. Mine's only got a 1 speed, and make sure it's hot enough. So I kind of put it near my arm or under my chin just to make sure it's hot enough. Ow, it's hot enough. And then as I start to heat that, you'll see the red will become more vibrant again. See it change into darker colour. And before I burn my hands, I'm going to turn it around and heat up the last bit there. There we go. So that is my sentiment done, and I'm just going to clean my stamp. They're quite deeply etched stamps as well, a bit like film art in sentimentally old stamps. They are really deeply etched, so you'll never have a problem stamping with them. Okay, so now I have my sentiment, which I've heat embossed, and you can see then it's nice and glossy. I'm just going to cut my black one. So the black one I'm actually going to cut along where the T's are. So I come across there and cut through that centerpiece there. Then I've separated them into two halves. And then I'm going to place a little bit of glue on the bottom half where this birthday is. And you can use a fine nozzle glue if you haven't got. I'm just going to place that on so that I got a shadow to the bottom. That'll just stick nicely there. And then the happy, I'm going to put a little bit of glue to the top part of that. I'm going to place it with the shadow to the top of that one. And I'm just going to push that down, and then I can show you that there. So now altogether that has a black shadow to the bottom and to the top. There's a couple of machines we can get, Pat. The electric one, which has got the best power, is a Gemini. So that's can get the Gemini Junior, Gemini, I don't know if it's a Go or whatever they call it, and then a Gemini Senior. And they all vary in different prices. And so all I'm going to do is take some foam pads to the back of this. Because there's large areas where I can actually put the foam pads where you won't see it. A little bit there. Cut this into little pieces now. Oop, just dropped one, so I'll pick that up in a minute. I put one on the bee or the happy. I put one in the centre of the birthday area. Okay, so what I'm going to do is make sure my card opens the correct way. Then I'm going to place my happy birthday into the centre. Like that. And then I'm going to start placing flowers and leaves around the place. So I'm just shaping the flowers, just running them along my fingers and thumbs just to add a little bit of dimension to them. So on the original I put the large ones there and the smaller ones in the corner there. I think I may change it around this time. Put the large ones in the corner instead of the small ones. Like so. So I'm just shaping them. Yeah, gilding flakes are lovely, Judith, but I do love embossing. Just going to bring them in like that. So I'm going to stick them on now. And then I'm going to put the little ones just on that little point there. The shop is closed till the 9th at the moment because of the lockdown restrictions, so we're not classed as an essential, but we will be back open on the 9th. But you can place orders on our website. So they're going to go on there. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to lift each one of them up and stick it down. So just tiny spot of glue. Have I gone really quiet? I'm concentrating. I shouldn't concentrate, see. Okay, so there's my flowers all around there. And then the leaves are quite curvy. So that's all I'm going to do is quite flat, so I'm just going to wiggle them so that they get a shape. I could squeeze them down the middle. I think just wiggling them gives them a little shape. I'm just going to do that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people suffer anxiety if they can't do their crafting, so, you know, but then if we say that, then, you know, hair and beauty, people pamper themselves for anxiety and stuff as well. So we've just got to go with what the government says and by the law, really. Thank you, Gaynor. Okay, so I've now got my little leaves, and if I want them a little bit smaller, I can just cut them down a little bit, which I will do. Just going to cut it to the V there. And this is going to go, got done with these, pop them under the corner, under that flower there, coming out there. And then another leaf. So I will lift this up and show you where I'm putting them. Make sure it's in the shot. So underneath where the centre of the flower is, there is actually where I put that on foam pads. I can actually slot that underneath the flower. I can have that coming above the flower there, and then what I do is just push that down, and then that'll stick that in there. And then that's what I'm going to do. So it's underneath this little petal here that I'm pushing everything. Never be afraid to cut up your die pieces as well. You know, if you want them smaller, make them smaller. That's what they're there for. It's for you to interpret them as you see fit. So I'm just going to pop these on. Just underneath there. Some of the leaves are sticking up, some of them are pointing downwards. Doesn't matter, it adds to the authenticity of it. Nature isn't perfect. Goes up and down in all sorts of ways. One more leaf and then I just put the gems on, and then that is our card done for today. So there we are, so there's all my leaves. Just to give it an extra little bit of dimension. It's quite light in colour as well, so that is the difference with the red and the blues and greens. And then gems. So because I use a little bit of pink and red in here, I've actually gone with some duotone pearls. So I'm going to empty a load out onto the side like that. Going to take the Sentimentally Yours sticky tool. Some people might have a sticky pencil tool, or they all work. Yeah, the greens are, the teals and that are quite nice. Yeah, the green would be nice. There is green on these gems, so just put a little bit of this original tacky glue in the middle of each flower. I'm going to just pick up these gems. So I'm not pushing down with this tool, I'm literally just allowing it. If you can't get a flatted pearl, just move it around. Oh, I got a little pearl stuck to a big pearl there. touch the tool, oops, touch the gem, that'll pick it up, just hold on to the glue and the glue will hold on to the pearl then. One more. And there we are. So by putting those pearls in the middle, it sort of brought the pink and the green into the centre as well. I was going to go purples with this today, but I thought I went purples with my last one. So I thought I'd go with the reds and the greens today. So that is the live for today. The card base I used our 300 gram super smooth. They do. So these ones with the green with the pink, these ones are like a pink and green, these ones had a teal and a little bit of pink in it. So yeah, they go really well. I think we do 4 different colourways on there. Thank you very much, everyone. Glad you enjoyed that. So I think our next live will be Tuesday next week. I think we're going to be doing 2 more next week. So it'll be Tuesday at 2 and Thursday at 2. Don't forget any of the lives that we've done. I think we've done 40 so far. This will be number 41, and they're all available to watch on our Facebook, our YouTube, and you can also access them from our website, I think, as well. Okay, so just YouTube is Valleycraft Limited, I think, Ltd, and it's all one word, but you will see our sort of sunray sort of logo there as well. Thank you, Judith. Yes, so if you do make any of these, you can share your makes if you bought stuff with us, and if you're going to try one of our stuff, then you can share them on Valleycraft, or you can actually share them to our Valley Crafters. So it's Valley Crafters Facebook page, and then, you know, that'd be lovely. Can I just ask, if you haven't shared this video and this live, if you can share it with friends that you know might be interested, or with any groups that you think might be interested, that would be lovely. And thank you for supporting us, and hope you all keep safe within these troubled times, and hopefully we will be up and running again on the 9th, as long as nothing changes. So thank you very much, and watch the space for more next week. Thank you, everybody. Hope you're well. Keep safe. Bye.